Slavery may have ended, but not racism, which after all allows for the existence of slavery. So let's today remember that 180 years ago, 53 Mende tribespeople stood up and said very, very simply, not us, not today, not ever. Black lives matter.
There's something quite different about the moment that we're in. It is as if we were at a crossroads. And what we do at this very moment will determine whether we're finally going to live up to America's ideals of equality and true justice for all, or forfeit them to the dustbin of time.
When I've been in a situation with adults having conversations, the vocabulary is an excuse to shut the conversation down because I'm not a racist, I'm a nice person. I don't have white privilege, I'm not a Kennedy. Like there's an excuse to push back the conversation, shut down the conversation around vocabulary, and that's an excuse. Right. It's absolute excuse. And so in my opinion, and I don't speak for all white people, just so you know, I think some of the vocabulary has even been softened, in my opinion, to make the conversation easier for white people to enter into. And it all seems around, the shutdown is all around this fear white people have to have a real conversation about what we learned as kids and what we need to unlearn as adults.
It's very important to talk about race because as we begin to preach and teach and tell people how to live, there is but one heaven. And we talk about everybody going to heaven, but yet we can't live with each other down here. So before we can get up there, we got to change some things down here.
I'm so grateful as I look at our first selectman from Waterford. He kind of helped start this conversation with me about, we're local municipal leaders. As Marian pointed out, many of us represent Connecticut towns. I believe someone recently pointed out to me at another event we're at 149 Connecticut towns that are predominantly white. And if we're not going to start a conversation, if we're not going to have an honest conversation with ourselves, with each other, then where does it start? How do we make a difference? We can't say, oh, that's just a problem for the other 20 towns. We, I think as a town, will be stronger for having this conversation and keeping it going. We'll be stronger as a state than as a country.
I'm going to tell you something, and I'd rather be honest with you. It's hard. This is hard. It's not hard because you have to speak to someone of a different race. It's hard because you have to come to grips with how you have not thought about this and answer some of the questions that some of the panels here had to ask themselves. You're going to have to come to some realization on your own, and it's going to hurt. And I'll give you a tip. It don't just hurt white people, it hurts black people also when they have to ask themselves how they have supported the systems that encourage or perpetuate what we are living in today. And so I put it out there. It's tough. But if you're courageous and you think this is the right thing to do, it can be done.